Hello everyone and welcome to Going Through Game of Thrones. My name is Triple S and in this video I'll be talking about the 7th episode of the first season. Now if you've watched my previous videos of going through Game of Thrones, you know normally I would go through the entire plot of the episode, but now I'm switching up my style. Going through the entire episode was making unnecessary work for me because I didn't have something to say about every scene. So instead I'll only be talking about specific points, things I like and dislike, how the episode does these things better or worse compared to the source material, and also bring up anything I find interesting or noteworthy enough to mention. If I get something factually wrong, or if you disagree with any of my thoughts or opinions, just leave a good-natured comment below letting me know. Don't go flying off the handle, please. Also, there might be spoilers for future episodes and books, so you've been warned. And don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that bell, and follow me on Twitter at @SSS_YouTube to be notified of when I release new videos going forward. And with all that said, let's begin. Number 1. At the start of the episode, we see a few oddly dressed people walking through this Lannister camp. Put a pin in that because I'll be bringing it up again in the next video. Number 2, we get our first look at Tywin Lannister as he cuts into a real dead stag, which is just more symbolism of the stag of House Baratheon being butchered. It may also be a reference to King Robert in the book, who is out hunting for a white hart, a white stag, only to find it already dead at the teeth and claws of wolves, which in and of itself is loaded with symbolism. Number 3. Through his conversation with his son, we learn Tywin values the whole more than the individual in terms of the House of Lannister, which he has established as a house to be feared since becoming the lord of it after his father Tytos died. Tytos Lannister, the laughing lion, who saw the good in everyone and so forgave them when they refused to repay money they borrowed, ignored his orders and openly mocked him to his face. House Lannister had become a joke under his rule. That wasn't until Tywin returned from the War of the Ninepenny Kings, battle-hardened. Ordering all of those who owed money to repay or supply a hostage, Tywin wiped out the other Lion House of Westeros, the Red Line of House Rain, as well as House Tarbeck when they rose up against House Lannister, on which the song The Reigns of Castamere is based. With the death of the Laughing Lion, Tywin forever mistrusted laughter and ruled his house with an iron fist, or rather a golden paw, making it one of, if not the strongest and wealthiest houses in all the Seven Kingdoms. Number 4. This scene of Cersei and Ned starts with a really weird shot that's supposed to be from Ned's POV as he's looking up at Cersei, but it just looks so odd to me and makes me think of that Pepe on the floor meme. Number 5. A part of the book which I thought might have been interesting to see is Cersei attempting to seduce Ned. Placing her hand on his thigh and touching his face and hair, she suggests he remain as hand of the king when Joffrey takes the throne and they should switch from being enemies to being friends. Very close friends. After all, why not? Ned's wife Cat is many miles away and Jaime has run off. She promises him if he's kind to her, he'll never regret it. He asks, however, if she made the same offer to Jon Arryn in an attempt to buy his silence, and she slaps him, to which he echoes Cersei's words from when Robert smacked her that he'll wear the mark that is left as a badge of honour. How she thought attempting to seduce the stubbornly honourable Eddard Stark would actually work, I have no idea. Number 6. Am I the only one who thinks this entire scene just felt a little off? Like, I'm pretty sure most if not all of the dialogue is additional dialogue recording, or ADR. It just doesn't sound like it's naturally coming out of Lena Headey's and Sean Bean's mouths in this scene, and a lot of the time when they're speaking, the camera isn't on them, which is a classic telltale sign of when dialogue has been ADR'd in. I can only guess there must have been a problem with the sound recording equipment, or there was a particularly annoying bird making noise in the background that they couldn't isolate and remove. Number 7. In the book, Varys heavily implies that getting Robert drunk and mortally wounded on this hunt was the plan all along. Whose plan, you ask? Well, since Lancel is a Lannister, we can assume it was his cousin, Cersei's plan. But what a ridiculous plan. Just getting him drunk does not automatically mean that he will end up with a life-threatening injury, not to mention the fact the hunting party, consisting of many more than just Selmy, Lancel, Renly and Robert in the book, went out to hunt a white stag. In fact, the Hound and Joffrey also went out on the hunt, though returned after having found the white stag had been devoured by wolves. But back to how Cersei could predict Robert would end up hurt. At one point in the book, Varys says that if it hadn't been the boar that got Robert, it would have been a fall from his horse, a snake bite, a stray arrow, leaving an ominous pause after this last suggestion. So we can assume that Cersei might have had assassins hidden in the woods waiting for the perfect moment to murder Robert and make it look like a hunting accident. It's just the boar got to him first. Number 8. Jorah explains to Dany that Aegon the Conqueror didn't conquer 6 of the 7 kingdoms because he had a right to them, but because he wanted to. Yes, you did hear that right. Aegon only ever conquered 6 of the kingdoms. Dorne was never conquered but became part of the Seven Kingdoms in 187 AC through the marriage of Prince Maron Martell and King Daeron Targaryen II's sister, who funnily enough was called Daenerys. Number 9. Dany says that Aegon the Conqueror had dragons as well as the urge to conquer Westeros, and Jorah flippantly remarks that dragons would make conquering easier. Dany is amazed that Jorah seems to not believe in dragons and I am as well. This isn't like people in our world not believing in dinosaurs and that all the bones are fake or put there by God to test people's faith. Jorah asks Dany if she's ever seen a dragon and uses as evidence of not believing in them that he only believes what he can perceive, and Aegon conquered Westeros over 300 years ago, so who knows what really happened. Jorah, there are many historical records written by Meisters who were alive at the time of dragons being in Westeros. Not to mention, dragon skulls still reside in the Red Keep. White Walkers having not been seen for 8,000 years, so they have passed into legend, and many people no longer believing they ever existed, I can understand because it's been 8,000 years. But it's only been around 300 years since Aegon and his sisters conquered most of Westeros with their dragons, and only around 150 years since the last dragon died. This is all assuming I've not greatly misunderstood what Jorah is saying here, and if I have, please correct me in the comments. Number 10, I like how in the book, when Jorah says he's going to go see if Illyrio sent them any messages, Dany finds him insisting he go on his own odd, but then assumes he's also going to find himself a whore and just shrugs it off. Number 11, Jon in the book tries to make sure Sam does become a steward, since even though new recruits are on their way to the wall, it doesn't mean all of the current recruits will transition into becoming men of the Night's Watch. Jon is confident he, Grenn and Pip will become Night's Watchmen, but just knows Sam will stay as a recruit with the likes of Rast. With Jon, Grenn and Pip having to attend to their duties, maybe not even at Castle Black if they get sent to one of the other Night's Watch castles, or north of the Wall, Sam would have no chance against Rast and Thorne, who will take great delight in torturing Sam with no interference from Jon. As such, Jon goes to Maester Aemon in an attempt to convince him to have Sam named to the stewards and become the Maester's new assistant. Maester Aemon promises to think about it, which leaves Jon hopeful but still worried for Sam, and all this is unfortunately lost in the show since all the recruits are being named Night's Watchmen. And number 12, let's talk about how this was an episode with a heavy emphasis on honour. Jaime spared Ned at the end of episode 5 because one of their men interfered, no longer making it a fair fight. Tywin tells Jaime that it's the honour of House Lannister that matters, not the individual honour of the members of their house. Tywin also casts dishonour on the position of the Kingsguard by describing Jaime as having been just a glorified bodyguard for 2 bad kings. Ned does what he feels is the honourable thing and gives Cersei a warning to leave King's Landing with her children. You could say Robert wanted the honour of killing the boar alone, and Ned says he will do everything he can to honour Robert's memory. Dany says the wine cellar honours her by gifting her a cask of wine, but it turns out to be a dishonourable act and an attempt to murder Dany in the dishonourable manner of poisoning her. Jon tells Sam there is honour in being a steward, but then becomes angry when he isn't made a ranger, the only order of the Night's Watch he actually sees as honourable, feeling his honour has been slighted by being named to the stewards until Sam convinces him otherwise. Pip lies that he was sent to the wall for the dishonourable act of stealing food for the honourable intention of feeding his starving sister, though it turns out he was sent to the wall due to the dishonourable actions of a lord he sung for. Despite repeated attempts from Renly and Peter, Ned refuses to do the dishonourable act of placing someone other than Stannis on the throne. Ned indirectly tells Peter to pay off the City Watch to fight for him, unable to actually say the words as it is not honourable. Sam and Jon swear their vows to the Night's Watch before a heart tree and the old gods, and Drogo swears a vow to conquer the 7 kingdoms before the Mother of Mountains, a holy place for the Dothraki people. Ned trusts in Selmy's honour and gives him the king's letter to read, but Cersei does not honour her late husband's wishes by tearing up the letter. And finally, despite his promise to Cat, Peter betrays Ned, which Ned really should have anticipated considering he was adamant that Stannis take the throne. Stannis is against prostitution, having completely banned it on Dragonstone, so Peter wouldn't want someone as king who would threaten his livelihood as an owner of many brothels. These are just the ones I spotted. There are a few I left off because I couldn't decide on whether it came down to honour or loyalty. If you can think of other instances of honour or you disagree with any of my list, let me know in the comments below. So those were all my thoughts on the 7th episode of the first season of Game of Thrones. Wow, it's only been about 11 minutes recording compared to like the 40 minutes of the previous video. So yeah, really does cut down the length if I just only point out the things I want to talk about and not the entire episode. But yeah, my favourite part of the episode goes to not a singular part, but Ned's struggles throughout the episode to do the right and honourable thing, despite many trying to convince him to do the dishonourable thing because that would actually be better. Stubborn Stark. And my most disliked part of the episode goes to the scene of Cersei and Ned in the garden. I have no problem with the acting or the scripts, but with how it was filmed, the odd camera angles and the apparent use of a lot of ADR dialogue. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have any advice on what I could do better for the next video, please leave it in a comment below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that bell and follow me on Twitter at @SSS_YouTube to be notified of when I release new videos going forward. Thank you again for watching, and I shall see you all next time. Goodbye.